like to call to order the work session for the Marion City Council of City of Taneytown for the month of January, and ask Mayor Pro Tem Foster to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see everybody here tonight. Out on a winter night. We haven't had too many winter nights, but we have one tonight, so I guess that's a good thing. Happy New Year, and I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season. A lot to cover tonight, but I think we'll move right through it. Our first order of business, all council members are here, by the way, except for Councilman Frazier, who is unable to attend tonight, I understand. There was a reception of delegation from the Carroll Media Center. So, Marion, who would like to be your spokesperson? You're on first.
Okay, thank you very much for putting us on.
If you could, if you don't mind, come up to the mic and state your name and your affiliation, and it's all recorded for posterity when we do that.
You might want to tell them CMC is recording it tonight.
Yeah, and Carroll Media Center is recording tonight, by the way, so.
And streaming, right? I
And
hope.
streaming.
Yes.
Streaming.
Yay! All right, my name's Marion Ware. I'm the director of the Community Media Center. And I just want to say, first of all, good evening to the mayor and to the council and to Mr. Heine and staff. We're very pleased to be back in Taneytown. The reason I am here tonight is I'm representing my chair, Steve Kirby, who was unable to be here, and a letter that I think you received earlier about the new franchise that's been now released to the council members and to the Cable Regulatory Commission members. And what we're requesting tonight is that you actually respond on our behalf to the Cable Regulatory Commission and ask that we be granted a 90-day pause in order to review this very technical, very complex 50-page document that actually will be a contract that the mayors, the councils will sign for 10 years. And so on initial viewing, this was only released right before Christmas, there are elements in this document that we are very concerned about. And we don't want to overreact, and we certainly don't want to be obstructionist. We know that you've been waiting patiently for 6 years for this franchise negotiation to be finished. But we do want to make sure that you know the implications of everything that you're signing. And there are parts of this agreement that do not really pertain to us, but there are large parts of this agreement that may well affect our ability to provide the kind of services that we think you expect from us and that your citizens expect. So we're asking for just a 90-day so that we can review it properly in terms of even a lot of technical pieces that I'm unfamiliar with. So things like segmented channels and what the impact of that might be in terms of cost, either on the municipality or on us. So some of these technical pieces that are kind of general in the document really need to be investigated so we know what we're getting into, both the CMC and what we will be able to provide to you, or the facts that we think you should know before we just jump in. And it's sort of like the difference between, well, what if and what now? And I don't want to be, and I don't think any of the council people or the mayors want to be, what now? Because some of it, in terms of connectivity between us and you, and the way that we can do these programs and stream. In this document, after 3 years, those lines revert back to Comcast, which means they can charge you for them. So we don't want to just say, no, this is a bad deal. I'm not really saying that at all. I'm just saying we need to know the implications. We need to know if there's other options. There could be, but we need to know what they are and how much they're going to cost. We need to know if we are going to get capital grants that are for 10 years at the same rate, with technology changing and a 16-year-old building. How do we support that? And we want to be able to tell you, we think we will be able to or not, or we'll need this or that, or we'll go to the commissioners. We are paying off right now a loan for just updating our studio to the commissioners. So some of this money will, go back to pay off that loan for career and tech students to come to the facility and learn these skills, which will give them great, careers in the future, but we need to know we can continue to do that. So that's about it. I want to introduce some of my board members who are also very concerned because actually two of them here are concerned with money and strategic planning, Chuck Harrison, and Holly is our new treasurer and also has her own business in the county that she just started in accounting. And Jean Lewis, I know you all know, NAACP, and also one of the drivers in our oral history project, which is not only recognized but well awarded. So you've come a long way in providing community access and local television information, your meetings, your events. I think you have a list here of the ones that have been done last year. But all of this, the publicity, these kind of things are gone out of the agreement. So we have to make up the difference. We need to know that seniors get this information and that they know about their towns and they're actively engaged in local government and local community. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to try to answer them, but I really would like you to please appeal to the CRC in a letter or a text or whatever and ask them to support us in this 90-day pause. Yes, Henry?
Pause. What is the pause?
Okay, so so during that 90 days, we are going to have it reviewed by basically an engineer, a signal engineer, to tell us the implications. We're going to go out to some other local communities like Prince George's that has, we think, a segmented channel. We're going to compare this document in terms of other cable coordinators that have basically written other cable franchises for language. So one of the things that we would like to see are reporting, consistent reporting about how many subscribers there are. I think even Carol's numbers and projections are kind of based on disparate information, let's just say that. There's no real requirement. Even though you can audit in this agreement, there's really no requirement for reporting. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In most other counties, they are required to do that, and they do it.
The reason for the pause is because there's a date or deadline that you need to respond, and
we just think that we can reasonably give you back a report of what we have found, and also to try to make some recommendations about things that might mediate some of these circumstances. So we would like to bring back to the CRC and your representative, all the councils, what we have found in 90 days. We don't want to hold it up too long. We know that people have been waning. I think the CRC's concern, at least what I've heard from Carol, is that, Comcast might take some things back. Well, from my viewpoint, I I really don't think that's a serious concern after 6 years, and most of the delay, I think Carol would say, has been on the Comcast side. So to have 90 days to review this, especially during the holidays, I don't think is unreasonable.
So do you have a pending deadline now?
Yes, it is,
14th?
I think it's February the 11th is when they want it back at the CRC to approve. January the 14th or 15th, whatever the Thursday is when there's public comment at the CRC meeting. So they're going to take public comment next week, and then they want to approve it by February, I think, the 11th. I just think the turnaround was
So you're asking for
ambitious.
90 days from February the 14th?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
February 11th.
So
February 11th.
it would be around May 11th
Okay.
that they could then go ahead and approve it, and maybe make some changes, and maybe also figure out other ways to work around it.
And each municipality has a copy of this this franchise agreement, right?
Yes, they do.
I
And if they
understand.
don't, I'll be more than, I have a bunch here.
You know if
It's
we have
50
them?
I
pages.
don't have any.
Okay.
Wow,
I
okay.
think we definitely need copies when you have a chance.
Okay.
Another question, just going beyond that, what is the primary source of funding for the Community Media Center?
It's totally the county. I mean, it's not totally. We do have memberships. We do have a few donors, not that many. And we have actually tried, we've gotten a couple of grants, but I don't want to emphasize that because they're not, they're small grants for specific projects. I think we could certainly do better and do more. We need more staff.
Right.
And we have a building that is actually the albatross on us. I mean, about a third of it is an old building that that's not our expertise, but we're trying to get the county to step up more to kind of absorb that, so more of the money can go towards mission and not that. So we have no fundraising person, or we all do multiple jobs.
And approximately what is your annual operating budget?
It's about, it could be up to, with this franchise, $1.5 million.
Okay, and you expect that to be dramatically impacted by this agreement right now? By the pending agreement?
I don't think it will the first years, but that's one of the reasons we want the 90 days, too. I already have my bookkeeper person, Holly, will help, projecting out 5 years. And from what we know, we think we need to know more, but we're at least in the process of doing that now. Because, for instance, the high vac needs to be replaced, and we're patching it, so we are doing that, and we will have a better idea. I think in the initial couple of years, we might have a little bit of a surplus, but it'll get all plugged into the building. Right. I know that. And we've decreased since this franchise was first, since all of you signed on, which was in 2000, as the towns having this co-agreement, if you like. We do more now, and even looking at this equipment, we stream, it's robotic. I mean, we've done everything we can to actually, and we have decreased staff. So we've decreased staff. We do more. We think we do it more efficiently. But yes, we're going to need help to continue to provide these services. And we have not been part of the process. We would like to be more a part of the process with the Cable Regulatory Commission in the future. So that's something else that we hope that you can help us achieve. I mean, we don't need to be voting members. We're not signers on this agreement. But I do think we need to understand this better before it comes to this point where we're like, what happened?
Who wrote the agreement, and how long did it take them to do it?
6 years, and it's the Cable Regulatory Commission, which is made up of an appointee from each town, so 8, and then the county, 9. So there's 9
And
members that
and
sit on.
Comcast?
No, they don't sit on that group. But I do think to say in the defense of the town representatives, I don't think it has ever been particularly clear what their role is. And so I think they've been in a hard position. I don't, you need to ask them yourself. But from what I've seen certain representatives from certain towns complain that they don't get the kind of information that they need to be a real part of this. And so, I think there could be improvement. Now, I'm sure Carol would not say that. I'm sure she feels like they do a good job of letting them know. But, for instance, they haven't met publicly for the last year. So, and we do have documentation of letters that we have asked continually to be updated. We met with their lawyer twice at the very beginning, and we just feel like we haven't been part of the process, and now we need to figure out how to deal with this new agreement. In 60 days, we can't do it. It's complicated. I mean, all of this looks seamless, but a lot of this is particularly technically, as I'm sure Henry will testify to, it can get complicated. And so that's all we're trying to do, is figure that part out.
May I ask, with some of the, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask, with some of the technological concerns that you guys have, for example, about segmenting channels, could you
Correct.
speak a little bit more to that? Like, what is segmenting of channels? How would that, affect your ability to carry out your duties?
We don't know. The truth is that segmented channels were an idea that we had talked about in 2000, is that each municipality would get their own channel. It would only go to their area and their particular planning area. And at the time Adelphia, this is going way back, at the time Adelphia signed the contract, they then signed the contract and said, we can't do this. It would, it's just way too expensive. There was, I think, a couple of towns in Florida where they were trying to do it, but it was very experimental. So now there is a way for cable companies using either set-top box or drop. It's become much more technically feasible to be able to do that. But there's all kind of questions about how that would be done and what, because just them providing the pipe does not mean they're providing the end equipment that transfers those signals. And listen, I'm not a technical person, but I know that every time there's a service, there's also additional cost. And someone has to bear it. Now, in some of this agreement, Comcast actually is bearing some of the costs, but we need to go through and make sure that in the end we don't get a big surprise, which is, for this segmented channel, if you use it, the municipalities have to hook up particular pieces of equipment that cost $15,000. I'm not going to come back and tell you that. I don't want to. So, I know, I really wish I could come here and say, yes, but I really don't feel comfortable doing that. And I need 90 days, and I don't think it's unreasonable in terms of a 10-year commitment to ask for 90 days for us to review it and to get back to you with something tangible you can read and hopefully understand. And I guarantee it won't be 50 pages. I promise. It will not be 50 pages.
Has Comcast agreed to it, or?
Yeah, well, supposedly, yes. Yes,
Oh,
they
okay.
have. So if you pass it, the chances are it will be approved, and that will be it.
Okay. Anybody have any other
Anything else?
questions?
Yeah?
Now, before you go, I just want to make sure you get the compliment that you deserve. And I don't know how many people really here remember what sound system we had here several years ago that nobody in the back could hear, wasn't working with connecting with the media center equipment. And it was the media center that recommended that we get this equipment that we're using now. And actually, we bought it, and they came and installed the whole thing for us, and it's been working wonderfully.
Thank you. That's nice.
And the second thing is are you eligible for state grants?
I think we should be, yes.
The reason I mention that is because you mentioned an HVAC needs, we got a grant from the Maryland Energy Administration and have replaced all of these at no cost, at all of our buildings.
Well,
Now, there's a little tie to that, though. I mean, what they want is to be able to track your energy, and you have to demonstrate after a period of time that you are
Right.
saving.
right.
But it didn't, well, we did have to put a couple of bucks into it because we ran out of grant money and needed just a little bit more, but
Right.
all of our HVA system here has been replaced throughout the city, all of our
Well,
buildings.
that's attractive and something I will certainly check out. I think one of the problems is that we're not really government, we're kind of quasi-government.
Right.
And that, in a way, affects our ability to raise grants. It affects a lot of things, because we used to be a county agency. So,
Well, if you give me a call, I can probably give you a lead to that.
okay, that would be great. And so, how do you all, can I ask you how you feel about, do you think a 90-day, just from what you've heard, is unreasonable?
No, not at all.
I don't know.
No, because I feel like we're going to need that much time for our attorney to go through it before we sign it.
That's what I said. I said, I can't believe anybody can do this in 60 days, but,
Not if it took
Okay.
them 6 years to
I
write
was
it.
gonna say, not to
right.
mention it took them 6 years.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's only 50 pages after 6 years. They weren't writing very quickly.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. Very good. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes. We have a slew of minutes to consider this Monday. Does anyone have any questions, any additions or corrections to any of these minutes?
No, but I'd like to speak to the idea that these are concise, they're clear, they state, very accurately what went on in the meetings, and I like them.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, the condensed version is much easier, I think, on us.
All right. Very good. They'll be up for approval, of course, on Monday night.
So Clara, good job on that.
Yes,
Good job on
Yeah,
putting these
very
together.
good.
Actually, hang on, I do have one other thing to say real quick. On the December 14th meeting, very bottom of the page, reduction of late fees. I was trying to remember who made the motion, who made the second, what was,
What we can do is we just go back and review that.
you just
this question.
review the video and make sure that that's accurate. I don't think that's what I was remembering. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, we have introduction of ordinance 19-2016, the Revitalization Act Amendment Number 2. To consider, anybody have any questions on that ordinance? Discussed that in December too. Hearing nothing, we have ordinance 20-16, or 2016. Campaign finance, which we've been talking about for the last 6 months. It looks like it's in a form to be able to be acted on. Anybody have any questions or comments on that ordinance? Good. Up for approval on Monday night is the 2016 hourly rate schedule for CDM. That's contained in your package, and you appreciate Henry or whoever comparing last year's numbers with this year's numbers to give us an actual feel for what the increases will be, and not just vague reference to going up a slight amount. Anybody have any questions on those?
Just one. Henry, can you speak at all to the new position of a design drafter? I mean, do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. CDM will be here tomorrow, so I can ask about that
Okay.
then.
Thank you.
Any other questions on ordinance
I have
or
a
the rate
question.
schedule?
I have a question. Henry, how long would it take for us to entertain bids for the same services from other contractors?
Well, typically, you don't do bidding.
Okay.
What you do is you go out and you basically interview various organizations and ask them, can you do these particular items? After you get to that short list, you ask them what your rates are, and based upon the two, their capability and their rate structure, you make a choice.
Right. Overall, has the city been satisfied with CDM Smith? Or not so much since it became CDM Smith?
I would say that's the case.
Right.
But the thing is, there's not many big projects in the future.
Right.
So the amount of work that I see these people doing will be rather limited.
Yeah, it's a real complex issue, a real kind of a thorny issue in respect to services like this, because they are technical. And one thing that CDM Smith has is a relationship with the town that goes back many, many, many years. In one form or another, I guess it started out as
Russ,
certainly
Russ
predates
McNair-
me.
Yeah, Russ McNair was the link to the whole thing, and you're right, it goes to like early 80s, our relationship with CDM. And it was a very good relationship, but I have to say that since it's now become CDM Smith, there are some questions. And they're more about, if you know, I'll just remind you of well 17.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking, is that became a debacle, and I feel like they were partly, if not mostly, responsible for that.
I agree. And at one point, they approached me when they had somewhat of a fix. They wanted the city to take a share in that cost of fixing the problem, and I told them, no, that's between the vendor and you.
So are they trying to recoup it with the new rates?
Well, you could
2
assume.
years bring new rates.
right.
That's pretty traditional.
Yeah,
I don't
with
bet it has anything-
Also, we also did another thing when we did the wastewater treatment plant. In that instead of having CDM manage the job, we competed it, and they lost it. And that's been working
And it
out
was
very well
There
so
was a
far.
significant cost difference between the two.
Right.
They still did the engineering part, they just didn't manage it?
Design.
The
Okay.
engineering's been done.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, they did the heavy lifting
still-
on the wastewater treatment plant, the pumping station.
Right.
Streetscape.
They've really done everything.
They did a lot of
that's been
heavy
done.
lifting.
Right, I imagine they did.
And they're still involved in this particular project because they designed it. So any design questions, they're involved in that.
Okay.
It may be the time now to open conversations with other engineering firms to decide whether we are happy with what we have with CDM.
Doesn't hurt to try.
I agree. As soon as I get some time.
There's plenty of them out there, I'll put it that way.
What I want, just, while we're on this particular topic, and just to cover it, so I'm gonna cover it in my other report, but if you recall, last month I reported that the project itself had a setback with the louvers. And the diffusers, right? And since then, we've made significant progress. And tomorrow is our progress meeting, and we might be making up some more of that time. Right now, Kevin told me today, they expect to be finished with one of the diffuser, the pits. And then, once they get that done, then they're just gonna have to, transfer the load to the other side, and they'll be able to do that. And so I expect we're, barring weather now, that we should be making up some of that 40 days.
Any other questions? We also have up for consideration the Maryland Environmental Service contract to provide services for a wastewater treatment plant. Do you have any questions further on that? We were presented the comparisons last month. And we have a memorandum of understanding for pawn shops. Would you like to speak any on that?
Sure, this is an agreement that we've had before with the Sheriff's Department, and it's expired, and we're just renewing it. The document that you have in here has been updated, and I think it's there. They have the newest, you have the newest copy now, and basically the only changes in there was the president has changed to Steve Wance versus Doug Howard. Everything else is pretty much the same. Basically what that does is, if there's questions about for example, goods that are coming into the city, as far as maybe stolen goods, going to the places where they distribute or sell these things, they do the investigation, and they do it instead of our police departments. But that's what the MOU is all about.
We don't even have any pawn shops at the present time, so.
No, but you still have, some places in the city that do that kind of,
Oh, yes, okay.
okay. And
I know
so
what you're talking
if there's a suspect of stolen goods going through that, they do the investigation.
Very good.
So we're just relinquishing that responsibility to the county sheriff's department?
Right,
Okay.
right. This has been in place,
For many years, right?
I'm trying,
In operations like that where there's suspected stolen goods being sold through retail shops, it pays to be able to coordinate the efforts countywide or statewide
Right.
rather than just locally. All
Jim,
right.
before we get off that section, Henry, in here, there's Maryland Department of the Environment. Let's see, debt service, note letter in the envelope, in the package. Are we doing anything with that?
wait a minute. Are you not talking about the MOU anymore?
Now,
Here,
No.
there's
it's-
another,
okay.
there's another
Another
there's
document.
another
just
insert
before
in our
the
book.
MOU.
that has to do with our debt
Okay.
service payment.
Keep
Oh,
going
the
back.
debt, I was gonna cover that, but you
Oh,
wanna do
you're
it
covering
now?
that later?
I don't care, we can do
No,
it now.
that's good. I was just,
Okay.
We'll just wait for your report.
Wait.
I was just wondering why it was in here.
Yeah, I won't have anything to report by the time.
That's okay.
Okay.
But we don't want to do that.
We'll let you get.
All right, and we also have for adoption, Resolution 2016-18, the water allocation for January. Does anyone have any questions on that?
You notice that
Did you
they've been
skip
added.
the 16, the revitalization act?
Yeah, you did.
You skipped that one.
No, he didn't.
Downtown Revitalization Act?
Yeah,
amendment?
I asked if anybody had any
Yeah.
questions.
Okay.
But
Okay.
19,
Sorry.
do you have any questions? We'll go back to that.
No.
Don't feel bad, I missed it too.
That has to
Okay.
do with the displaying of the merchandise
Yes.
out front.
Okay.
All right. All
The
right,
water
resol-
allocation, Meadowbrook has been added.
Meadowbrook's, yeah, it's on there now, it's good.
All right. City managers report, Henry, what do you have for us?
Oh, gee. We covered number one already, the wastewater treatment plant. We're gonna, tomorrow's a status meeting on that. Capital projects, we're still continuing to work on that. The crosswalk, I'm still waiting to hear back from State Highway. They seem to be kind of, the holidays have gotten a little bit in the way of getting a response back from them. We were kind of talking a little bit about this in with regard to the tablets, but Freedom Broadband is now currently in what's called Phase 2, which means that the equipment has been installed, namely here at City Hall, it's been installed, down at the wastewater treatment plant, it's been installed, and down at the standpipe. So we're getting to the, not too far away from lighting that up and being able to use it.
Do they have a go-live date on that, or?
No, I don't have it yet. Okay. Back to the other one that you were talking about, Angela, the debt service. I just brought this to your attention so you can see, what we have to pay. And this is our debt service for $586,738, and that's $537,000 of it is the principal, and $49,000 of that represents the interest that's due. And this is, I didn't want you to confuse you here with what it says in the back either, because it says for the wastewater treatment plant. Yes, that was for the BNR 20 years ago. We're still paying it. And when we did that project, one of the things that you recall, Jim, is we did the 194 water main replacement. That's the one that we did right across here just very recently. So, just to keep you fresh on the bills, that'll be coming out this month.
Any questions? For Henry?
Thus ends my report. Fortunately, at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, it's been a little bit slow.
Okay. Good to have those times once in a while. Any questions on any of the departmental reports? All right, hearing nothing, we'll move to the legal report. Our attorney, of course, is not with us this evening, but,
He sends his best from Hawaii.
oh my goodness. He's off to a good
He
start.
called me tonight just to brag about the weather. Well, I don't know if he's, I don't know if he's allowed to be in the same area.
We've two pieces of correspondence in your package from our attorney. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts on anything that he shared with us in his correspondence? All right, let's move into unfinished business. We have in our packet the IT manual. It's a very attractive manual. I thought the graphics were nice. I didn't have a chance to absorb it all,
But
but
if you're like me,
Nice
if you're like me,
graphics.
you get to the acronyms, it's,
is that a document that's ready to act on?
it is ready to act on, unless you have any changes you see in the next, now or over the weekend.
Anybody have any thoughts or questions, or?
It seems pretty solid to me.
Henry, after we approve this, is that when we get our Taneytown.org addresses?
Yes,
Okay.
Or you can get it beforehand, too.
or you can get it now, and don't have to wait
You and I
for
are
the better part of it.
I don't
I was
have
gonna
one
say,
either.
oh, you,
Free
okay.
holdouts, yeah.
And also on, are these pages? No. Page 7, when it first referred 7.1.4 is the first time I think that it refers to human resources as a department, but later on it said, in the document, it says human resources/clerk. I think that needs to be verified since we don't have a dedicated HR person.
Right, okay. Just what, I guess the best thing would be to just change that word, human resources, to clerk.
Well, later in the document, it says human resources/clerk. So whichever way you want to do it.
That's
Okay.
probably the way
Because
it
when
should
I
be.
read this, I thought, human resources, who's that?
Well,
The clerk.
it's one of her hats.
That's probably the way to describe it at this point, is the /clerk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it won't have to change when we get a human resources person, right?
And just somebody clarify for me, the idea of the Taneytown.org address is that all city business
Right,
go through that address.
correct.
Even though you are going to be able to have remote access, and that remote access can be on your personal cell phone?
Yes. I have that now.
I do too.
From what I remember from,
But doesn't that kind of skew the whole thing?
Well, it's no different than using your personal address on that.
No,
I mean, it's all
a separate
accessible.
account.
But it's not, it's, on your phone, it's sort of like a temporary thing. It's not
Okay,
there forever.
it's still coming through
Right,
Right.
Taneytown.
Yeah, it's being
Right.
stored on the server.
Right.
Your phone just pulls from it and shows you
Pulls
what you
from
want to
it,
know,
right.
but it stays on the server.
So if you were to turn around and on your personal cell phone, do something, whatever, illegal, it would still be feeding through the .org,
If you're
use
using that address.
If you use that that
if
dot
you
org.
use that.
Right.
Yes.
That exchange is the city email. That's my personal email, that's the cloud, and that's the company email. So it's all separate. You keep them all separate.
Okay.
Say, it's the same as you have your personal email on here. It's the exact same idea, except now your city messages, since they're subject to, Freedom of Information Act. This will enable the city to fulfill those requests without having to come to you and say, we need all the emails you sent with your personal email. So it's allowing that more transparency, it's allowing the city to accommodate where they're required to.
Yeah, I understand that
Right.
part.
So it's basically, you use your personal for city emails now, you'll just use a different email address. That's all. I find
Keeps
it
everything
easier.
in a separate bucket, that's all.
I find it easier to have
Yeah.
two different ones.
See, it's like, if you had, using an example would be, most of the larger email services like Gmail and
Yahoo or,
Yahoo,
Hotmail.
all of that information is on a server that's remote. It only passes things to you, to your device. And then eventually that's purged from your device as well. But it still remains on the server.
Okay.
and I believe with Councilman Frazier, Dan actually set it up that emails that go to his Taneytown.org address now are forwarded to his personal address. So there's still a
Right.
copy on our server, but then it goes to his personal email, so he's not managing two separate accounts. So that's another option for you to talk to
Choice.
Dan about.
Yeah, you have a choice with that.
Okay.
and that way he doesn't miss anything either.
That's correct.
I got to compliment Dan, he did a good job. Very good job.
He's done a lot of great work for the city, I think.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, let's move into the next subject, which has to do with cannabis zoning. You know, where we were looking for a proper place to put this. Joe, I think you mentioned you want to make a comment before we begin this discussion.
It'll only take me a couple of minutes. It's a brief statement. It's basically a summation of some of the things we've discussed before, talk about, our thoughts behind this and what the process could be about or putting into place some kind of regulations, so. The words that I have written and which I now endeavor to communicate are sentiments shared by the Marion City Council. I by no means presume to speak for them, but humbly on behalf of them, because I know that this, the subject of marijuana dispensaries, has united all of us. Certainly anyone who disagrees with the words I am about to speak has the right to divest themselves of them. Given the legalization of the sale of medical marijuana in the state of Maryland through licensed dispensaries, it stands to reason that all municipalities and local governments should have in place regulations, restrictions, and requirements as conditions for such dispensaries to operate in order to ensure the safety and stability of their citizens. The same is true of Taneytown. We already regulate everything from alcohol outlets to pawn shops to this end. Marijuana dispensaries, too, should fall under such precautionary measures. Other places, like Westminster, are already pursuing such regulation. We know from evidence, for example, as in Los Angeles on the handout provided tonight, that even legally operated medical marijuana dispensaries, let alone dispensaries with marijuana intended for recreational use, will see their products dispersed to the black market. In some cases, children at schools within walking distance of the dispensary will be indirect customers or targeted with legally obtained medical marijuana. As we've said before, we cannot allow the most vulnerable among us to be targeted in this fashion. While we may have no direct control over the schools, we do have a moral obligation to ensure that the environment in which these schools operate and in which the children travel to attend class are as safe and stable as possible, such as the distance a dispensary may operate from a school. We do, however, have the direct ability and the moral obligation to seek to protect those families and residents who live and work in this town, such as with the distance a dispensary may operate from a residential area. It is for such reasons that regulations and restrictions should be in place in anticipation of any state-sanctioned, legally recognized, and legally licensed marijuana dispensary that may come to set up shop in Taneytown. A proactive and objective approach to a situation which may never arise is better than a reactive and cursory response to a situation which is breaking. Tonight before the Marion City Council is a list of potential requirements for any prospective marijuana dispensary. The list has been composed by our city attorney and myself, drawing on the suggestions and discussion generated by the Marion Council at our previous meetings. The list may be by no means complete or exhaustive and is open to changes. With the consent of the Marion Council, these requirements shall form the core of a written policy to be drawn up by legal in consultation with Councilman Brad Wance, the Director of Planning and Zoning, and the City Manager. At such time, the written policy will be sent to the Planning and Zoning Commission proper for evaluation and consideration. Pending their approval and any changes, it will return to the Marion City Council for discussion at the next possible monthly meeting. And with that, that would be the process.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody have any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, one. We're talking dispensaries.
Correct.
How about processing?
I want to research a little more because I'm getting,
Well, Jay is,
he getting more about that now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've heard both sides of how growing and processing are separate. Oh, no, they're together. Oh, no, no one knows. And that's what I'm trying to find out more about.
yeah, I've read it different ways,
Right.
yeah.
So I'm hoping Jay can shed some light on that.
He's working on that right now.
Excellent.
Okay. So this is a work in progress, I guess.
So are you
One
going
do
to
we
be looking?
need to keep on the front burner to get,
Right.
to get, to move.
So Joe, are you going to look for direction by the council on Monday?
Monday night, if council approves, then, Jay and myself and you and anyone else will begin putting this into a written policy so that, we can vote on it down the road. And I think the sooner that we get this into the process, the better.
Sooner the better. I agree.
It'll end up as a zoning matter,
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
zoning matter,
Well, it'll go to planning and zoning, and then it'll come
not
back
just
to
the
us.
policy.
Right,
Right.
correct.
All right, good. Any other unfinished business for us tonight? Let's move into new business. Monthly financial report is in your packet. Anybody have any questions on the monthly financial report?
No, sir.
All right, how about the accounts payable? That's also before you. Any questions on the accounts payable? All right, next we have a request from the Homeowners Association Carol Vista for a waiver of the water benefit assessment charges. Andy, you want to give us a little background on that?
Oh, we got somebody here that's going to make a presentation about
All right, well, that'll be fine then. And if you just, again, come up to the mic and identify yourself and let's hear what you have to say.
Good evening. I'm Ruth Harlan. I'm with the Carol Vista Community Association. I'm currently the president of the HOA. Prior to me actually getting into this particular subject, what I'd like to do is perhaps also give you an up-to-date as to our wonderful community and how we're going along. So if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce Taylor Spencer, who is representing TRV, our developer, and he'll give you a little update as to what's happening with the community, and then I'd like to go into this particular topic, if that's acceptable to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Certainly.
Okay? Taylor Spencer with TRV.
Good evening. Representing Richard Kress, who many of you have worked with over the years, and you've been working with us for a long time now. I think it's been almost 14 years since we've been up here before you in various stages. We're down to the bitter end, and I'm here just to tell you where we stand. This is a picture of the very last section of Carol Vista. And just as a little background, you may remember that this was originally zoned for 116 units of condos. So there were about 6 mid-rise buildings that we had originally designed on here, and that's what it was approved for. And probably 4 or 5 years ago, we came back to you and said we would like to change the design of this, get rid of the condo buildings. And what we did was it turned out to be 40 units of singles and duplexes. And this is what we have left now. At this particular point, as of today, of the 40, 17 of these units have been built and settled with the final homeowners. Another 5 of them are under contract and in various stages of construction. 2 of them are spec buildings that we put up. One's a spec because it was the second part of a duplex, so we had to build both, and we're looking to sell this one. And we built this as a spec down here, and we just put them up because sometimes people want to come along and they want a unit almost immediately. So we always like to have 1 or 2 in our backlog. And then we have 15 lots outside of the 2 specs left to sell. We sold approximately 20 in the first 12 months from when the model opened. And I never thought that would be possible because it had been pretty slow there for a while, as you recall. Of course, we went through the real estate downturn, but they've sold very, very well. We've been very pleased with our builder, Gemcraft. And if you haven't been there in a while, all the roads are in, all the utilities are in the ground. Of course, the roads have not been top coated yet. They don't get top coated until all the construction's done. But basically, we as land developers have done almost all the development work. All these big piles of dirt that we had back here, they've all been moved off site. Olympic Court has now been put in. We've already got contracts on 3 lots back here. We've ordered the road signs and the street signs, so the stop signs are coming in. We've ordered lights for some of the pillars out here in front with the entrance monument. So we think things are moving along pretty well. If we keep up to the sales pace that we had last year, we'll be done here in a year, and you won't have to see us anymore. But I'll let Ruth come back up and explain to you. I'll just tell you real quick, and then I'll let Ruth give you the justification. This is very remote from the clubhouse. The clubhouse has irrigation systems that go out and cover the front of the clubhouse area. That's the other entrance, not shown on here. This, of course, is all the way at the back entrance, and there was nothing really to tie any irrigation system to back here, so we did not plan to put an irrigation system in back here. The community has come to us and asked us to put in an irrigation system, and we said, all right, that would require, of course, we're not going to run piping down from the clubhouse because that's such a long run to bring it down, and I'd be tearing up everybody's established lawns to do it. So we offered to put bear the cost of putting the water vault in and the connection fee, but we asked the community to pick up the impact charge, and that's why the community now is coming to talk to you about the impact charge.
So I'm back up. If I may, I did write up some, I need crib sheets at my age. I hope you all understand.
Thank you.
Could I see that for a moment?
Sure.
Hey, Ruth?
One here.
Turn around and show it to the group back here.
One, oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm curious, I think I've got this story right. It's, the propane,
The tank farm, right.
Yeah.
So it's right here.
all right, I'm wondering about the landscaping along.
Oh, I'd be more than happy to discuss that. We're having a meeting on the 26th, so we'll be able to give you some information on that. Okay. Again, I'm Ruth Harlan. I appreciate, again, the time. Our request is for a waiver of the $5,110, I think that's correct, water benefit fee that's proposed to be applied to the extension of the irrigation to our second entry of Carol Vista. And again, to just reiterate some of the history. During the initial development of the community, a system was installed to provide irrigation to the front entry and to the area that has the lovely name of Carol Vista. And this system is actually provided from the clubhouse. The meter is located within the clubhouse. As development of the final phase of the community comes to a close, the community will be taking over the common area in the final phase, so it will become our responsibility to maintain that. The residents will have to pay for whatever the upkeep would be. And this includes the second or phase 4 entry. The irrigation to the second entry was not included in the development plans for the final phase of the community, as Taylor alluded to. But in an effort to maintain and enhance the quality of the community and the tax base of over $1 million to the county and $360,000 a year to the city, the Carol Vista Community Association wanted to make sure that we had irrigation there to keep that area as beautiful as it can be for the whole community. And as I said, to maintain the base of the community and the tax base. Although the system is, let me go back if I may. The association did request that TRV then, if they would, please install irrigation in that location. And they did agree to do so and pick up the cost. Although the system is an addition to, and in our opinion, an extension of the initial irrigation system, a separate water meter is required to be installed because of the distance from the original system. And as I said previously, TRV has graciously offered to incur the cost of the installation of the water meter vault of $5,000 and the connection charge of $750. The community association's concern is that, number one, the $5,000 charge for the water impact, my understanding is that that's normally applied to each unit or home, which is understandable. And that we're requesting that this be waived in this instance for the following reasons. Number one, the water impact fee was applied to the initial irrigation system, and is the association's position that this is merely an extension of that system that is being currently used by the association. Also, this is not a true metered unit. It's not a home. It's not a house with residents that would be using water or sewage system on a daily basis. It is merely to irrigate just the water beds in front, which I believe is less than, what, maybe a fifth of an acre?
It's actually less than a fifth of an acre of grass and just some flower beds.
So that we're not really talking about irrigating the entire front of the community. Also, our feeling that if the water usage of the system needs to be limited, the association can do so. For instance, if there is a water ban or something of that nature, the association has the ability to turn the water off and would do so, of course, following whatever the regulations of the county or the town would be. So therefore, it does not have the impact that any other standard unit would have. Again, the area that would be irrigated is minimal. The water usage for the irrigation of the 2 planting beds at the entry, we do not feel justifies the full $5,000 charge of the impact fee, because we really feel that this is not going to be impacting to that level. Any questions? And thank you.
Questions for Ms. Harlan?
Question for Henry. How is that water benefit fee calculated? Is it a flat fee for meters?
No,
or-
it's a very complicated algorithm that goes with that.
Okay. Is
But
it
it
based
is-
on projected usage, or is it based on meter?
It's standard, right?
Yeah. It's based on a lot of elements to it, as far as, well, you know, caught me off guard on what everything's involved in that, but I can get that.
But it's a standard number for every meter.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Yes,
Right.
it's
it's
per
a-
house, okay?
So what they're looking to put in will be metered.
it's metered, yes.
Okay. I'm trying to understand how they say that it's an extension of the other system, but they said it's not an extension of the other system. It has to be a separate system. Is that,
Yeah.
It has to be,
It's a
it has
quarter
to
of
be
a mile
metered
apart.
separately.
right, I understand.
Right.
So
So,
the idea that it's an extension of the existing system is not,
no,
in theory, yes, but,
Concept, yes.
right, in concept, but.
Yes.
In concept is our feeling. If in fact it could be without tearing up the road or interfering with what's going on, we could have just extended it. But without creating any type of impact either on the internal community or the outside community, it's better to just put in the second meter.
In effect, it's another house without the building.
Right. That's why I'm looking at it.
Well, yeah, and also, starting to get some memory jogs here, but the impact, what we're talking, what the reason for the impact is that at some prior time, we had to make some additions, like well 17 or any of those things, either, that the impact is caused by debt. This would really be going to our debt reduction.
Right. So this extra meter is not in their allocated water, correct? Would it be shown in the water allocation as another,
EDU?
yeah,
Well, when you look at it, okay, they're only building what, 40 houses?
I was gonna say, we were approved for 116 units.
okay.
And
No,
we
but I mean-
backed off 116 units down to 40. So we gave up a lot of EDUs at that point.
But even when the change occurred, okay, the amount of water allocated to Phase 4 Carol Vista
Right.
was, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, 40, 48, something like that.
I can tell you when the community was approved, the assumption was that because it was an active adult community,
Right.
that there would be an average usage of about 125 gallons per building per day
Right.
in the community, as opposed to a normal a mother, father, 2 children, 250 gallons a day.
Right.
The last time it was analyzed for Carol Vista, we were running at 90 gallons a day on average. So we were under our allocation that had been approved. And besides which, just in case you don't know, Carol Vista is a net provider. You know, we put 2 wells on Carol Vista as a net provider to the city of water.
Right.
which exceed what the Carol Vista draw is, so. And one other thing I'd like to say, Angela,
Well, you,
just so I can clarify one thing for you, you said it's just another house. What I would say is last year, the irrigation system out of the clubhouse probably wasn't turned on once because we had an average rainy season, a wet summer,
Yeah.
so.
well, I'm not talking about consumption-wise. I'm just talking about another
Logistics.
meter.
Right.
It's just, right, it's just, it is another meter.
Right.
I
Now,
thought
you,
you were saying consumption-wise.
oh, no, not consumption.
It's gonna be a fraction of whatever a house would be.
So,
The consumption part on that we talked about years ago because that was a big problem. But right now you have 26 units left
Yes.
on the allocation.
how many houses
You don't
are
have
left
that
to be
many
built?
houses left. So we would not,
Oh,
Yeah, we have less houses to be built in the allocation. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
oh, okay.
yeah, so it's not that we would have to look for another unit.
Well, that's fine, I'm just trying to
It's there.
see.
There
Yeah.
were 10 more units that you had is 50, and there was only 40.
Something like
There
that.
were only 40, so, yeah.
Some number, some close to that number.
And the thought is that we understand that in fact, the ruling, the policy, whatever the policy is normally, it's a meter for a house, it's appropriate. What we're saying is that this is different. It is not within that, what we perceive, what we understand the policy to be. And are saying that in that case, we would look for a waiver on behalf of
If we,
it's actually
I
being.
mean, my understanding of the policy is that it's a meter. I
There's
don't
two
think
things.
house comes into that, does
there's
it?
two. You get, they're paying for the meters in their, here.
Right.
You have $5,000 for the meter, for the water meter vault and the connection fee, that's connecting to the
Right.
system. The impact fee is driven by debt.
Okay. Looking at it from a planning standpoint, I mean, does this have any implication on drainage or anything else that should have gone through site plan, nothing?
No, no. Everything they have there is, it's already been approved, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to say, when you equate, I think you need to take the house part of it out as well. If that were, and we had at one point in time looking at a golf course being here, that would be the same situation. There's no house, you're watering lawn.
Right.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much for your
Just to let you know, the decision really will be on Monday.
Okay. Do you
presentation.
want us back on Monday, or what?
Don't have
Do you have any
to.
more questions for us on Monday?
Anybody?
There could be.
There could be.
It's possible, yeah.
All right, we'll absorb all that and be ready to act on Monday night. We have also, under the new business category, the reduction of the letter of credit for Antrim mini storage. I thought we'd already done that, but maybe not.
No, not yet.
No.
Nope.
And what I can say is, although it's on the agenda, there was a timely schedule with the inspection that needed to be done, and that's why CDM's coming tomorrow to ensure that everything is done. And the amount of money that they're asking for will also be included for Monday.
You'll update us with the stats on Monday.
On Monday, yes. CDM, like I said, CDM's coming tomorrow to do the inspections.
Right, and to be clear, this isn't to release the letter of credit, this is just a reduction up.
Reduction, correct. Right, because, you would still have a maintenance.
Right.
And we have a reduction in the letter of credit for Road A. Where is Road A?
You haven't used it?
I've heard of the A train, but I've never heard.
That's between.
Road A is the one that connects, that goes,
Oh, I know where Road A is.
See, all I had to do was a
Antrim
few
Boulevard and Conewago,
Just a
that's
few-
Road A, yes.
Gotcha. I know where it is.
The shopping.
cues, huh?
I remember.
It's a nice,
It's been helpful.
yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
You said that's waiting inspection as well?
Right.
Okay.
They're coming tomorrow to do that. Well, it's the full round, the wastewater treatment plant and these two things.
And this will also be on Monday?
Awesome.
All right, well, why don't we entertain council reports tonight, since we have an unusual amount of time on our hands. Angela, do you have anything? Nope. Diane, how about you?
As many of you probably are aware of by now, we had an anonymous donor donate some money to the city for the purchase of toilets. And that's been a couple of months ago. And the treasurer and myself have been working diligently to put together an administrative process to make this happen. And first, on behalf of the mayor and council, I would like to publicly thank that anonymous donor for the gift. And second, to let you know that we worked half the day yesterday, and we got everybody called and issued told to come in and pick up their vouchers so that they can receive these toilets. The people that I actually spoke to were very, very grateful and thanked the city and the donor. And I'd just like to publicly announce that.
I don't know the exact number, but they were coming through today rapidly.
Good.
Great.
That was a
'Cause I
wonderful,
called and
wonderful gesture.
Yeah,
It
spoke to
certainly,
all of those people yesterday.
And
Certainly
they've all
was
been
appreciated.
allocated, Right.
Yeah, they've all been allocated. They probably all haven't been picked up, but they've all been allocated.
Right.
And in addition to that, the donor did challenge other people to donate. And in that regard, I had a call from a gentleman who is a plumber who lives in Taneytown but has a business in Westminster, who has agreed to also donate toilets.
So it
We
may
haven't
continue.
gotten to his part yet. We're just finishing with our part.
So
There's-
we'll look at phase
There
two
was
next
what,
time.
two
Yeah,
more than,
we had monies to be able to purchase 35 toilets, and we filled that 35, and the list is up to 37. So we have 2 on the waiting list for maybe phase 2.
Phase two, great.
The unknown, of course, is that we had a installation credit of $50 eligible. People were eligible for from once they were installed. We don't know how much that's going to be used. So.
right.
Very good. That was a well done project. Anything else for it?
That's it.
All right. Brad.
Planning and zoning, there's been some great talk about Meads Crossing. They're trying to move forward quickly, so you're gonna see that coming before the council probably in the not-too-distant future. The plans have changed a little bit from what they originally said, and the planning commission's been working with them on that. The other thing, I've been working with Henry. Last month, of course, we voted on the new policy for the battery issue for the MXUs, as to how people will be billed on those estimated charges. I've been working with Henry on it, and we've made some decent progress. It's still gonna take a little more time. It's a report nearly 100 pages long that I'm going through by hand to figure out who's eligible and then what credits are gonna receive. But that's in the process, and it should be ready, it will be ready by the next billing cycle, and will be reflected on those people's bills. So that's moving forward.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you. Joe, how about you?
Just a couple of compliments this evening, actually. I'm glad, Diane brought up what she did and what Brad brought up what he did. Both of you should be congratulated for the work that you're doing. Henry, that goes
Thank
to you
you.
as well for your assistance, Brad. And then I also want to, tell Clara you're doing a fantastic job. Again, the minutes that you provided for us tonight, I thought were clear, concise, they're accurate, they're on. I'm very happy with them, so thank you so much for that.
The only thing I'd like to say to Brad is that on my tombstone, Right now, it would say, I told you it was gonna be hard to do.
You did. You did.
All right. The only comment that I have to make is that beginning this time next week, our General Assembly will convene in Annapolis, and we'll be in for a new session. Council members, MML and the City of Annapolis is hosting a welcoming reception for the delegates and senators on next Wednesday evening, beginning at 6:30. If you're all invited to come and shake hands if you care to do so. So it's going to be at the Governor Calvert House, and you're welcome to come. And that's the only announcement I have.
Though, to get there.
And now I turn to the gallery. Would anybody like to make any comments from our audience? Robin, come up to the mic.
Good evening, Robin Frazier, 142 Bentley Street. I have a couple questions and a couple comments. In the discussion tonight, you talked about not putting out a bid for the engineering work, and I'm just wondering why we wouldn't do that. Why wouldn't we put
Professional
out?
services, you don't bid professional services. Our chart basically covers that.
So we're looking to explore services from other companies, but it's not going out as a bid.
Well, that's a good way to gather information. You might not know all the people who might be able to participate. And, you don't have to pick the lowest bid. You can incorporate into your request for proposal the analysis of the ability and quality of the company, so that there is a little bit of analysis you can do and not necessarily pick the low bidder. So I would encourage you to do that anyway, because you'll get...
Well, yeah, I'm very familiar with doing this, so we've done it before.
I think you might get more participation the other way. Okay, cannabis.
I actually have a list of people that, when we went out to bid on the management, very thorough list to start with.
Okay. On the cannabis, I would also like to suggest that you consider that medical marijuana only be dispensed through pharmacies. And there's already medical marijuana that can be dispensed through pharmacies. I had an opportunity to talk to the sheriff and the state's attorney, who are just appalled that we're dealing with this issue at all. They were down in Annapolis fighting the medical marijuana bill, and they know that it's an entree into recreational use, and they're appalled and want us to do what we can to fight it. They said they would arrest if the feds would prosecute their own law, so maybe we can work at the federal level to get the feds to prosecute, and our people would arrest. And they said that you could have an ordinance, of course they're not attorneys, but the state's attorney is, that you could have an ordinance that medical marijuana only be dispensed through pharmacies, and it would be handled like a zoning. It wouldn't be something they arrested for, but something that as a town, or if the county did it as a county, they would handle just like a zoning violation. So I just want to encourage you to continue to take a look at that, because that would solve a lot of problems.
That might be a good thought.
Robin?
Yes.
One of the reasons we're looking at the special zoning is looking downstream. If if it were to become a recreational allowable by state, then they could do that same thing out of the pharmacies. And the pharmacies are right on Main Street. You want them on Main Street?
Well, I think pharmacies by federal law have to vet, and anything that they put through the pharmacy has to go through a study and has to be well vetted. So I don't think that the pharmacies would disperse
I doubt if you'll ever see.
Marijuana cigarettes.
Right. I don't think you'll ever see a pharmacy even want to do that. simply
Correct.
because it's regulated by the Federal Drug Administration. And that's why they don't do any banking. No bank will do anything with them. It's a cash process.
Well, I understand that. I would just encourage that you do that. I mean, I'm not saying don't look at the other zoning issues, because you're right, that could still be an issue. But to start, if this is really medical marijuana that's not going to become recreational marijuana, that would help to quell that problem. So I just encourage you to look at it carefully and do that if possible. Then I wanted to ask about the late fees. I know there was a lot of talk every time a suggestion was made by the Water Sewer Committee that if we reduced revenues, that, I'm saying we because I participated a good bit, but even though I wasn't on the commission, but if revenues were reduced and something that was suggested, that also you needed to suggest where the revenues would fill in the revenues that might be reduced. And by reducing the late fees from 10 to 5%, I mean, we don't know how many people are going to pay in that first week and take advantage of that. But potentially, if they all did, that would be a 50% decrease in your revenues. And I didn't hear, and I might have missed it, so I just wanted to know what was the plan to fill in that revenue loss, which I think you had like $46,000 in late fees. It could potentially be $23,000. Was there a plan for filling in that revenue loss if we see a revenue loss?
The idea behind the new structure is for those who don't get in the first week, there will be a higher late fee that will help offset that initial 5%. So this was our compromise with those with the idea of, okay, we see your 5%, but let's look at other ways that we can recoup, but also get people to take advantage of paying closer to on time.
Right,
So
and
it's-
I mean, I think it's a fine idea. It's going to help some people, but
Right,
just in
But now you're
keeping with
questioning
what
the
was.
idea, so I'm trying to
No, I'm not
understand where you're
questioning the
coming
idea.
from.
I'm questioning the, what was said to others who had revenue reducing ideas, that if you reduced revenue, you had to offset it with something.
Well, and that's why we
So I
have
was
the
just
two-
asking, what
This
is
there shouldn't be any revenue reduction, is what we're saying.
That's why we have the
Because the way
tiered
the rates are
structure.
structured, the people on the front end will get a reduction, but the people on the back end will have to pay more.
And there will
So
be
the
people
end
on the
result will
back
be
end.
the same.
And all that, you could speculate that.
Well, and we could
but the
speculate the other
potential-
way too.
Right, and everything we do on the water sewer is speculation, because you don't know if you reduce the rates, whether people are gonna buy as much water, and still, it might
Right.
not change.
Well, you're
So
right.
everything we do is speculation, so I was just
Right.
wondering,
And that's why we did the
since there
tiered
was so
structure.
much discussion about where are you gonna replace that revenue, I was just
And
asking
that's
the
why we
question.
did the tiered structure, is to offset that loss.
But if there is a reduction, you know where it's gonna come from.
Right.
It's coming from the reserve fund. We have no place else to get it. And the next budget that's done, which they'll start, pretty soon,
Now,
Will reflect that.
will reflect
Right.
an anticipated
And
reduction in
the option always is
This
at budget
year-
time, if we find ourselves short,
reserve.
we're short of revenue and have to take it out of reserve, and if council doesn't want to take it out of reserve, then we'll change the rate structure again. Simple as that.
Right, I think that sounds exactly like the kind of things I was thinking. Okay, then I just want to say also on my water bill, okay, my latest water bill, on 2/11, which had water bills over 600, over 900, and you said that we had a leak. So in the last quarter, and I think you said you have some kind of equipment that detects that.
we do.
Okay, well, either way, I just wanted to bring it up because this last quarter, we had the opportunity to really monitor the water and not use too much so that we could see whether there was a leak that was creating. And our total water sewer bill was $24.04. So I don't think we have a leak. And
You're right, and if I recall, when that happened, you had called and asked for us to come out to do the inspection, right?
well, because
correct?
that's what you're supposed to do when you get a little green slip.
Well, I'm just saying, not necessarily, but you did. And there was a scheduling conflict, and so we called you and asked you to reschedule. And what you said was, you didn't think that was going to be necessary because all your tenants are out of the property.
Right, and so that was a
Okay.
great opportunity to see if we had a leak that
But-
would make our water bill
but it
go
was-
from
so that's-
$250 to $900.
So what that's
And
telling
there
you-
isn't, I'm telling you, there's no leak.
And what I'm telling
that's
you
not
is,
it.
what I'm telling you is, it's your tenants that are creating the demand.
Well, that's a lot
fact-
of water, and I'm not so sure about that.
Well-
But I just want to let you know, since you kept, every time it was brought up, you said we had a leak. We don't have a
No,
leak.
not every time. This time we did.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Anyone else care to make any comments?
Henry, I just have a question. Did we set a date for our planning meeting?
Retreat?
Retreat?
Not solid yet.
Okay,
It'd be in February.
okay.
I'll get back.
Yep. Well,
Mr. Bollinger from 9 West Balmer Street. That Street A, where's that? From Anthem Boulevard over to McDonald's?
yeah.
Yes.
Fix that pothole.
Oh,
Every damn time you go across.
There's a
there's
speed
pothole,
bump there too.
I've already brought that up on the list.
Okay? And the street behind CVS. The housing is not complete on that? No?
The development's not completed yet, no.
Almost. I think it's all sold.
Because the manholes are very rough going back through there.
Well, as a matter of fact, what that developer has requested that they put the final wear course on. And we went out and inspected, and there's a lot of problems that they need to fix before we'll allow them to put that wear course on. The dips in the road and that.
The residents there are screaming about it as well. But it
On the
looks like,
back-
I
on
think
the
they
back,
missed,
too.
they missed their window with weather to get that top coat on this year. So,
And back to the water bill, I have a tenant. Quarter before this year, they used 18,000 gallons of water, 2 elderly people. So, had the town people come up. We checked it all out. No water, no leakage. Checked the meter and everything, nothing wrong with them. So this month, quarter come out, 11,000 gallons. So I asked him, what'd you do? Less washing, less wash food, smaller loads. So I don't blame the town. If the leakage is there, you'll find the leakage easy.
That's right.
I say it's there. But you said, how much was yours?
It was over $900.
$900. My tenant for 2 elderly people was $480 for, not this quarter. This quarter went down to $210. They said, thank you. But it was their problem. They was using extra large loads. They was washing clothes twice a day. I mean, it can be solved if they work together. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
How many tenants did you have in there? How many tenants were in the property?
4 and a baby.
Were in the baby. The baby will contribute a lot to that.
I had that, I had that many people.
People don't have to wash diapers anymore.
That's 4 times as much as my bill.
How about a water softener? No? Because those have proven to be a big consumer of water. The back flushing,
All right.
I just believe it's the tenants' usage, that's all. And there's a lot of tenants in there.
Any more comments before I call for adjournment? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
A second, all in favor, say aye. Thank you. 9 o'clock.